Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night, 7:07 p.m. Central. You're listening to United Public Radio, 107.7 FM, New Orleans. We got Jay McNicholas here with us tonight. Good to have you here, Jay. And our guest is Brian Seech. Good to have you here. Did I say that completely correct? It's Seech, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
That's
good.
right.
Just making sure. I'm from Georgia. I'll even mess that up if I'm not careful. That's all I ask. But I'm in Florida now, and the bugs are starting to come out to eat us. But
Oh, joy.
yeah, it's the
You're in
mosquitoes are
skunk ape.
already.
You're in skunk
Yep,
ape territory, right?
Yes, yep, absolutely.
exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of that here. Stacy Brown's around here somewhere. I don't know if he's.
Yeah.
I think he
Okay.
still lives in this area, but him and his dad got that weird thermal of something,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. I remember.
Neanderthal
Yeah.
running through fences. But I've had him on the show, and I've hung out with him before. But that's the area here. So there's some
Okay.
stuff here. I've also heard some rumors. I forget who the guy is right now, but that there's some ranches around here in the Panhandle that they have some stuff going on that they can't talk about and stuff like that. I've heard
Wow.
that from Stacy and several people, like some maybe Skinwalker Ranch kind of stuff, but I
Okay.
haven't found
Okay.
the locations yet. But if you could, Brian, just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got started and your organization, maybe just a little bio.
Yeah. Sure. So basically, growing up in the '70s, I was interested in, um, uh, everything from UFOs to ghosts to things like that. And so I started to watch a lot of the documentaries at the time, Mysterious Monsters, Legend of Boggy Creek, and there was like shows like In Search of with Leonard Nimoy, one of my favorites, and you guys
Hmm.
probably know that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, very well.
so so I was always had an interest, and I was studying and doing some research on it, and then um, met my wife. Uh, Married in 85 with my wife, and we decided to. She had an interest. Is She actually thought she had a ghost in her house growing up. So we were both interested. So we have actually two research groups now. One is called Q, Center for Unexplained Events, and my wife and I started that in '86, and that was to be basically a clearinghouse for all unexplained phenomena. So we have two sons, and as they were growing up, we didn't really get to do much field work because they were growing up. We were taking care of them, but in 2000 or '99, we joined the PA Bigfoot Society, and we formed our own group, also like in '86. And 2012, we have our new group, which is the Center for Cryptozoological Studies. And we took we felt we weren't getting the cryptid reports under Q, because Q is just kind of, it's very bland. It's very all encompassing. So that's why we brought Center for Cryptozoological Studies. So that's, we still run both groups now. She runs Q and I run CCA.
Cool.
And well, what's been going on lately, currently, with sightings or in your area? What have you been on to?
So we grew up and we lived for most of our lives in Pennsylvania, Hopewell, Beaver County. It's close to the Pittsburgh airport and about 25 miles from Pittsburgh. So, and big Steeler fan too. Just
Oh, that's all right. They're not in the same conference as the Redskins, so I'll let you have that one.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, the Redskins. My brother used to live in D.C., so he was a fan down there.
The house, just real quick, the house I bought is in Pennsylvania. The guy previously, he had the Philly special, like a chalkboard play painted on the wall.
Yeah.
So I painted over it, put the Redskins colors, then like a banner with the Redskins logo and Washington Redskins, just to be out of spite for the new name. Nice,
Yeah.
recent, just nice and bold on the wall.
Yeah, now it's Commanders, right?
Yeah. Hmm. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, basically, we moved down here 2.5 years ago, in August, and it'll be 3 in August. So we're starting to try to get out to the public and to find new reports and things here in the Panhandle. So we live right outside of Weirton, West Virginia now, and it's in the northern panhandle of West Virginia. So if you look at a map, you see Ohio, you see PA, and we're that little sliver. And like I was telling Jay, I was like, we're like in the middle finger of West Virginia. We're on that
Yep.
little tip up there. And so we have there was a phenomenon down here. It started in the '80s, and it's actually it was called the Beast of Bell Hill. We have the actual road is about 3.5 4 miles from our house now, and it's called Bell Hill Road. So in the '80s, people were starting to have starting to hear strange noises in the woods. Animals went missing. A barn was broken into and feed was eaten out of it, and so people didn't know exactly what was actually happening. They were saying everything from, hey, could have been a mountain lion, a big cat, could be alien, extraterrestrial.
Yeah,
We had
cats don't usually like going for grains, though, right?
Yeah. Well, there was
Usually.
one instance where apparently there was a deer found that was half tore apart and it was up in a tree. So, and that's what big cats like a mountain lion would do. So that's
Hmm.
probably why how it got like that. And there has been Black Panthers. We're finding out Black Panther sightings here in our area. So that's another thing. But so another thing that was brought up was Bigfoot. So just kind of make a long story short, there I was able to connect with an eyewitness who actually saw a Bigfoot, and he claims that this is what the Bell Hills, the Bell Hill Beast was. So basically, the short story is him and his friends. This was in the '80s, early '80s. Were building this little like a cabin, like so they finished it up and they left for the night. And the next morning they all came back and everything was tore up. Like something actually went in there, just tore everything up. So they went up to the top of the hill, and when they get to the top of the hill, there's this tree swaying back and forth. And so they got up to it, and it looked like there was something like behind it, and it put its head out, and it actually stepped out. And he says this thing looked what you would say what a Bigfoot looked like. So it actually started to actually run towards him and his friends. They ran down to the bottom of the hill into the house, and the one of the relatives was there, and they were screaming, "Hey, there's something was chasing us!" So he gets his gun and he goes up. He doesn't find anything, right? But so we thought that we were pretty happy about that, as we actually had somebody who actually had an experience and saw what they believe was a Bigfoot. So was that the Bell Hill Beast, or was there other things also happening at the time? So although it's an older case, we did bring it. We brought it out more. I don't know if you guys are probably familiar with Small Town Monsters.
I've worked with them. Yes. They've been on the show. Yes.
I'm unfamiliar.
Okay, so they did two series called Sasquatch Unearthed, and I was lucky to be in the PA episode about the Chestnut Ridge, and my wife and I were in the other episode about Mountain State Monsters. And that interview with that eyewitness is on the Mountain State Monster. So if you guys ever turn to it, you'll see the
I
actual.
think I think I can get it on the Roku upstairs on the
Yeah,
TV.
I
Did you
think
say,
that
Jay?
episode
Yeah.
is called Season of the Sasquatch. That particular episode. So we were
Yeah.
happy, since we did that. We're bringing more. How do you say it? More recognition to like the Panhandle in general. I know we're sponsoring a conference here coming up in May, first time ever in Brooke County, which is the county right below us. So we have had down here. We did get someone who talked about I can kind of show you some of these as we
Sure.
go. Um, this was a winged entity sighting, and this one was in Tomlinson Run State Park. And I'm going to try to put it up here the best that you can. I
Yeah.
can.
They were doing pretty good earlier.
Let me know if it looks good. Can you guys see that?
Maybe bring it back a
Come
little.
up.
Up.
Oh, okay. Oh,
There
okay.
we go. There we go. There we go.
And this was one of the sightings here in 2014 in Tomlinson Run State Park. This was of a winged creature that flew over the eyewitness's car, and she said it was big. She said it engulfed the whole car basically, and it flew real low, then it flew back up. So the Tomlinson Run itself, we've been studying that. We're hiking it. There's allegedly been Bigfoot activity there. My friend Fred Salugas, one of his former members, actually took a small print and I don't have a picture that's not accessible right now, but of what could be a juvenile Sasquatch. It's a smaller print. People have said they felt strange things on the trail. They've heard screams. Now this is over a long period of time, like nothing that's like happening like constant. So
All the time.
yeah. This is one of the things that we one of our kind of our pet projects down here is to research that park and any other sightings that are happening now. And it's taken a while. It's taken, the first year we were here, we couldn't do much. We moved. We were still moving in. We got sick, and now we're more settled now. And like I said, we have that conference coming up here in May, so we hope to be getting more reports and things like that. So.
I think Mark was saying something about Stan Gordon Bigfoot sightings. Does that ring a bell? He was telling me some things, something about Stan Gordon having Bigfoot sightings or something.
Oh yeah. Stan has been researching all of this since the '70s, so he gets sightings all the time. Now he's more well known and he's more out there than we are. So, but now we're in West Virginia, so we'll take some PA sightings because we're 7 miles from the Beaver County border where we grew up. So we're pretty close to where we used to live.
Yeah, you're perfectly nested in like a 4-state area. I mean, you're close to northern Maryland, northwestern Maryland as well. So
Western Maryland, yeah, we've never done anything in Maryland yet.
Yeah, Maryland's not that spooky, unfortunately. I mean, there's a few things. Like Baltimore has some spooky stuff, and some of the older, bigger cities. But I don't think most of the western panhandle of Maryland is like rural, like ski country. There's nothing going on there but skiing and breeding.
Yeah, there was a gentleman, Bob Chance. He did a lot of research down there in Maryland on Bigfoot. I have not contacted or heard or anything from Bob for years, so I don't know, if he's still doing it, or he's an older gentleman. He's older than I am even. So, but
well, maybe he's retired. I don't know. I haven't heard of the man, but yeah, I'm fairly convinced that my encounter was in a very rural encounter. I mean, it was there's trees and woods, and it was a neighborhood and houses like your normal suburb, but half a mile one way and a mile up this way, it's warehouses and manufacturing and McDonald's and like shopping centers, in a place you wouldn't expect to see a Sasquatch type of creature. And I'm fairly convinced. I know there's 2 ways we can find them. The third way I really hope doesn't happen, but it's probably the one that's going to happen, is some hunter's going to get lucky and shoot one, or unlucky and shoot one, however you want to look at it. And then if he's able to bring the body in, he'll make a lot of money, but he'll be chastised for killing the thing. But brings it to science. The other 2 ways is you have to know their patterns. And I'm convinced that they're using caverns to go underneath all the way from Maine to probably as low as like lower Georgia, as they can stay underground. But there's places where they got to come up, where the caverns end, and they may not all match up, but they got to come up above ground to make passage to the next cavern to stay hidden from us, because they do actively avoid contact with us, most of them anyway. So if you put teams in on like 4 teams that stay in these 4 places throughout 4 seasons, you're going to find them, because they're going to start where they have their food and they're going to follow their food, whether it's summer going to winter and winter going to summer. Either way, you put people in these places where they have to come above ground, you're going to find them. But you got to stay there. You got to smell like the land. You got to stink. You cannot eat human food. You can't go to McDonald's because they'll smell you. You got to smell like them, and they smell like a dung heap. It's disgusting.
Now that's if Jeffrey was even mentioning this. If they are indeed total flesh and blood animals, if there is not a possible paranormal aspect to them. Now at our organizations, being a quote unquote cryptozoologist, you're looking for a flesh and blood type specimen, okay? But I always say that there's a missing piece to the Bigfoot puzzle, because something that big to totally stay, and not leave that much verifiable evidence. Okay.
Well, that's not that hard to believe. There's Matt Moneymaker's show did a whole episode on why we don't find the bodies of large creatures. And so they found the deer that was like recently hit on the road and was dead. So they took the carcass and they put it in someone's backyard. And I want to say that the terrain looked like New England, but I don't know. It didn't give you the location where they were or what the season was. But I'm thinking they were in New England, either late summer, early fall, and they staked this deer out, 200, 300 pound, female white-tailed deer, full adult. How long do you think it would take to decompose?
I think I did see that episode. It was like about
7 days. Yeah, it was 7 days. And then after 7 days, there literally was nothing but like little chunks of bone because all the other parts were taken off by other animals.
Yes,
as they became scattered to the wind in 7 days. So something that's 500, 1,000 pounds, 9 feet, 12 feet tall, 2 weeks, there's nothing left. If they don't bury them themselves. If they don't bury themselves.
Yeah.
I know there was some pretty fascinating stuff in that missing 411 UFO connection where something was in the tree with that school field and something happened with a UFO. And then there's definitely some kind of cloaking thing going on with Bigfoot. I mean, we have Ron Moorhead coming on at some point, and I know he has a new book with David writing the foreword to it. But if you look at quantum Bigfoot, I don't really know how to find the words to explain what it is, but it just seems like there's still something weird. And I'm not saying all Bigfoot can do that. Maybe there's some that can and some that can't. I've also said maybe there's physical ones and ghost ones. When they croak, there's spirits, like we have spirits. But when it comes to phenomenon, I've had UFOs parked over my houses that I've moved to over the years, and friends go, Jeffrey, you're attracting them here, and seeing weird beings, from light beings leaving my house flying to the heavens to little cloak beings with a black box in the woods. So I can't rule out anything, but I don't try to buy everything, fall for everything either. Like a lot of the exopolitics stuff I see, they should be writing like erotica on Amazon with some of the alien weird stuff and stories they seem to make up in exopolitics. But
we actually ourselves we received a report at Raccoon Creek State Park, which actually isn't that far from here. This was I'm thinking about 3 years ago. This gentleman was fishing in like the upper back lake, and there was a creek down below, and he said he heard some noise. That he caught a flash of something, and he looked and he said, I'm looking and I'm seeing this kind of this outline of this figure look ape-like-ish, and he says the closest thing I could put it towards, because you remember the movie Predator? I said, yeah. So he said it was almost like a shimmering, you could see the leaves through it, but it was an outline, and it was by the creek, and it walked by the creek, and it just seemed like just to walk up into the woods. And we just call them like the shimmering predator type entity. And when you talked about the one about the UFOs and stuff like that. Well, someone who's in MUFON, and I forget his last name right now, which is Mutual UFO Network, might have been Bruce Maccabee. His wife actually was hunting by a school.
That's it.
And if you can find it, it's called Missing 411 Hunters, I think. There's a picture in there that she took, and it's a weird picture. It's kind of like, it's distorted, but it almost looks like a form. So there are sightings, we call them shimmering predator type entities, is what we call them, and that's the only one that we've received. But several other people that I know researching, they have had one or two of them. So again, could they do that? Could they, or are there just different kinds? They're not big. Maybe they're not even Bigfoot. Maybe they're an alien type species or an interdimensional that could be, and let me put it in air quotes, right, seemingly look invisible. Okay, so again, I just think there's a lot of different stuff out there, but as our organization, we're looking for a flesh and blood type entity. But man, there's questions for me.
There's no absolutes. That's the thing.
No,
But
no,
what's the small the Small Town Monsters documentary with the UFO and the white Bigfoots, and they shoot at them, and I don't think it does anything to them. and the military comes out. I forget the name of it, but it's like a crazy story where there's like a monument and the military came out and all this crazy stuff. I could look it up now, but I'm too lazy. But there's some crazy story like that with small town monsters. I own that one. Ridge, or I'd have to look it up. But
Well,
I know
that
there's
would
a,
probably be the Chestnut Ridge, and that's where
yeah, that's it.
we did a lot of our early work. My wife and I, Terry, we both do all this together. When we were in the PA Bigfoot Society, we spent a lot of time on the ridge. Now I don't go there anymore. I haven't been there for years. But if you watch that Sasquatch Unearth the Ridge, there's a bunch of things in there about the ridge, and it's really
I'll have to
compelling.
check that out for sure.
Yes.
They've done some good werewolf stuff. Those I've seen the Skinwalker and werewolf stuff. That stuff gets
Yes.
really creepy.
Yeah.
For
if
sure.
you watched, it's called Werewolves Unearthed. There was one episode on there. Did you see that one yet?
I haven't seen. I saw the documentaries that are just like the standalone ones.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Unearthed yet.
Werewolves Unearthed, and they interviewed me in that. You don't see I was actually interviewed in my vehicle at lunch. So I talk a little bit about some of the Shenango Valley werewolf stuff. So
I know there was one where there was a guy that was anonymous and he said he peed himself seeing a dog man or something. I don't know who that was, but they had him all blacked out. They do a good job with those. I enjoy them. I have a bunch of them, but I haven't been able to keep up with them except on Tubi because of financial crap lately. But I enjoy them. I've interviewed Seth and a few of other people. Who was the guy that did the one? God, I'm having trouble. He just put out a book with them. Bruce Hallenbach, he was on, and he had a book. I forget what it was. Something about a blob where they saw one person saw the Virgin Mary, another saw a blob. It's one of the small town monsters books. He was on not too long ago. What were you going to say, Jay? Something?
I was just looking at the bibliotech. There's a really good online resource. I think it's in Peru. But he's got descriptions of an alien. And I want to say it's almost like Yowie, like the Australian word for Bigfoot. But it's more like Chewbacca. So it's a creature that looks like Bigfoot / Chewbacca, but uses technology. So it wouldn't be above and beyond their ability to have a cloaking device, personal device that, like you say there. And I've heard stories about that as well. That people have seen them like enter a shimmering portal and disappear, and the portal closes behind them, which could be a cloaked spaceship. So I'm not entirely convinced. I think the problem is that the stories are kind of overlapping a little. When I was looking at these documentaries, I did the same thing you did when I was in the 70s, 80s. Mm-hmm. I watched as many documentaries as I could. And I've forgotten however many I've seen. Some of them I go, oh, I've never seen this. And I start turning on, I'm like, oh, wait, I remember this. It's been so long I had forgotten about it. Yep. But I think there's two different species. There's one that's an actual technology-bearing alien. It looks like Bigfoot that comes here to visit, and we're mistaking him for the actual Bigfoot that's here. Perhaps they're related. I don't know. Maybe it's like they have a colony here. I don't know what the story is. But the funny thing is that a lot of people will put faith in a book called the Bible. I don't mean to crash anyone's party, but they also are quick to not believe these other stories of these actual flesh and blood beings that people have seen up close and personal. I've seen one, and it's so close. I know what it is. I don't have to research. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I know what it looks like. I know what it smells like. I know what it sounds like. And when I hear the actual sounds, like on Matt and Moneymaker Show, when they're lucky enough to catch an actual simian bark, it'll make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up straight. If it doesn't do that, it's recorded, or it's fake, or it's a dog. So we have to break out the truths from all. There's three stories going on there. You got a crypto, you got an alien, and you got UFOs. And I don't know what year it was, 83, 84. The guy that played BJ Honeycutt, he did a TV show about UFOs and aliens, and they took a map. Yeah. They took a map with overlays with pinpoint of where Bigfoot sightings were across the U.S. Then they showed a map with pinpoint marks of where UFOs had been sighted in like the same time span, 10-year, 20-year, 30-year span, or whatever it was. And then they put the two overlaid, and what do you think happened?
Yeah, it's almost the same thing.
It all lined up.
Yeah.
Almost all of it lined up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something deeper than just a crypto there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for some people they get uncomfortable because a lot of people they want either black or white, and with a lot of these phenomena, I call it the gray.
Unfortunately,
The
yeah,
shade of
it's
gray.
not that, it's gray.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
What was the Dogman story? I know you brought up a picture of that. What was the situation with that? I have a big interest. Me and my fiance Christina saw a strange looking dog type thing on the side of the road that we don't know what it was, but it looked like a big weird golden wolf that just looked weird. Like it almost looked like something out of a native like a book about natives, an illustration of like a berserker with the fur. It was just very weird on the road. Strange. And then someone said there were wolf coyote hybrids here, and I looked those up. It didn't look anything like that. And
Well,
I have no idea who the hell put wolf coyote hybrids here, but some I don't know why the hell they did.
Didn't
But
look anything like that.
that's true. Don't bring it up a little. Bring it up.
up.
You can't see. Bring it up. Bring it up.
Right here.
A little bit over to the left, or which direction is that? The other side, other direction.
Right there.
There we go.
Backwards a little. There we are. Yeah.
It's a possibility, but this was like on fours, but it just was awkward. But the hair and stuff, it's a little similar. It's like giving me a little creeps. A little.
Yeah, this was in fall of '91. This was in Mercer County, Pennsylvania, and we lived in Beaver County, so it was like 2 counties up towards Erie, and they were seeing this type creature in a place called Farrell, and right outside of Farrell, and it's estimated to be about 7 feet tall, very wolf like. This one almost had more of looked like more like a lion's mane, but they are like I hate to use the term werewolf, because when you use the term werewolf, you're thinking of Hollywood werewolves and things like that, but when I've talked to some of the eyewitnesses, they said, I hate to use the term, but it looked like a werewolf, Hollywood werewolf. Now we call them dogmen. We put them underneath the dogman umbrella, but again, it out of everything we've ever researched, I don't want to say the most controversial, but maybe the most hard to believe. But when you talk to these eyewitnesses, they're like, "Hey, this thing looked like a wolf." An upright walking wolf on 2 legs, and it moved smoothly. It moved, it ran. It wasn't like, like if an animal, like a bear can, walk short distances and on 2 feet, but it's very awkward. These are very fluid movements, just like me and you walking, and it doesn't make any sense, guys.
If you keep up, Linda Godfrey, all her work, there was some town where the sheriff kept up with all those stories. There were so many and kept them in a box, and things like that. And then Anubis with the Egyptians and the gods with the dog heads. I mean, it's weird to think about, but I don't. And lycanthropy in general, just weird crap about that throughout history.
And the word dog in the English dictionary doesn't even have any roots in any of the root languages of English. They can't find any aside from the dog star canis. There's no word in Old English, Old German, New German that has a relationship to dog.
Then coyote trickster with native lore. That's like a dog man, pretty much. So something to it, as creepy as it is. But seems like a lot. We've been watching that. What is it? These woods are haunted, and I don't believe everything on there, but there's some creepy stuff on there with those dogmen for sure. They don't seem nice, and they seem like they might eat you. Definitely some creepy stories with those. But I don't know if you've kept up with the Skinwalker Ranch stuff.
My favorite show. I love that show.
That's the craziest show I've ever seen on TV about this stuff. And it's crazy for the phenomenon, but what's crazier is just the government spooks in it. That's what makes it even crazier. Yeah. And then they had the Beyond Skinwalker Ranch and brought Bledsoe on with former CIA analysts as paranormal, and Colonel, John Alexander. And that's when it, I think I've had phenomenon like that happen with light kind of stuff and asked it to move and it would and stuff. And I know there's that book UFO of God that's like in the Christian section with 5 stars and everybody's like, now I'm doing this, but there's creepy stuff about it. Like just with all the government involved, you can't keep your eyes peeled off of it. A lot of people don't even realize how crazy that show is. I don't think they don't watch it, but it really is crazy as hell. Like the last season was an alien base under there or something weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think with that show now, again, you're always a little cautioned with any of the shows that are on TV.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's especially with Skinwalker, they seem to be trying to do repeatable scientific research, and they seem, I want to put seem, to be coming up with some good things that they can go back and do. I think, because science too, right? Science is about repeatability, right? I mean,
whatever it is you wish to prove, you have to be able to test it scientifically with repeatable, acceptable results.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, they are trying, with the frequencies. One of the things we've been doing last about 4 years is experimenting with frequencies. We have our own frequency machine, and you have to mark down the data. And I think there's a lot to, if that indeed is we call it a portal area. If it is a portal area where all kind of crazy stuff can come in and out, right? I've always thought, well, if, let's say, if I walk in, we have about an acre here. Most of it is a big hill here, but let's say I walk out and I'm walking around. I use a tri-field meter, which I do. All of a sudden, if I get it, I'm in the middle of the woods or I'm in the middle of my yard, and all of a sudden the magnetic setting is going off crazy. Maybe that's a portal. Maybe that is, because I always think that if there is a portal, my own personal belief only is there has to be some kind of energy or something has to open to get whatever's on that other side in or out. Again, I could be totally wrong, and I'm fine with that, right? I'm wrong a lot, but I just think there may be some kind of energy involved. Certain times a thing can open up, very temporal, and then boom, it's gone.
There's some very, very cool testable things that with ghost and paranormal detection that are unique things that aren't coincidence, because it happens so frequently to the same equipment repeatedly. So that's scientifically proven fact. You go into a spooked area or a haunted area and your camera has a full battery, you turn it on, you go, hey, let's start recording, and it dies. That's been repeated and repeated over the time people have been doing ghost investigations. But the problem with the ghost thing is that we don't have the technology to actually, if we get the technology to work, we could probably record them. That's why we can't prove anything on that. And then that kind of sucks. But there's also other technologies out there that we don't know that could also produce the same results you're getting. Like, say they had a spaceship on the ground and there's a portal, a door that opens up and you go into it. You may not necessarily be going into another dimension, but they have the cloaking device on. That's an electromagnetic field or an electromagnetic energy source. And when they open the door, you may detect a fluctuation in that device. And maybe you're detecting the device finally, because when they close the door, the cloaking thing comes back and then it disappears from you. So that could be something too.
Again, we don't know. That's kind of
there's 3 stories going on. 3, that's what bothers me is that you got the UFO thing, you got an alien thing, you got a crypto thing, and that all 3 can be interconnected, but they may not be. So it just boggles the mind. It really does.
It does, because we just don't know, like you said, and I've been on like other podcasts before, and I say I don't know a lot because I'm being as truthful and honest to you as I possibly can. I have no agendas. I mean, if I don't know something, I'm going to say, you know what, I don't know. Or if somebody comes up with an idea I never thought of, I'm like, hey, I never thought of that. That's a great idea. We throw the ego out the door. It's about trying to,
you have to be completely unbiased, and there's a couple things we could probably, you, I, and Jeffrey could all probably agree on. Is, for one thing, with all the stories of physical interaction between actual humans and Bigfoot, from me and on the past, and even if you have some of your own personal ones, even if people haven't had our same experiences, didn't see Bigfoot as close as I did, those stories alone prove that at least we know there's a physical aspect. That's one thing. That's the easy part to figure out. Once we get Bigfoot into the light, maybe we can coax him in with Reese's Pieces candy like they did the Alien in the Steven Spielberg movie. But we gotta get that first aspect into the limelight. And the other two aspects are both, highly controversial, alien and UFO, and they may also be interconnected. It may be that those aliens in that UFO are coming down who look like Bigfoots. We don't know. That's going to be harder because all the governments on the world want to know what those two guys are doing. They could care less about Bigfoot. Bigfoot is just a caveman with bow and arrow that walks under the trees. Mm-hmm. But the guy with the big laser gun, that's what they want. That's going to be the hard part to prove. Bigfoot, like I said, all we got to do is park people in those spots where they have to come up above ground to avoid us, in probably very rural, very remote places. We don't even have to actually bring one to science. Just get one on good, solid, focused in film. Boom, question solved.
They seem like some freaking ninjas, buddy. So that's why I don't rule out rim walkers.
I've seen them move with a clear backyard. They are wicked quick. In the trees, they move through the trees the way we move through dry land and water. We cannot move through the trees as good as they can. There's no way you'd ever catch one.
So have you had any experiences that have happened to you, or going to cases or anything weird happen, or what's the closest that's come to you?
Well, we've actually never seen anything, unfortunately, after all these years. Not for a lack of trying, but so probably we did have one rock thrown at us at Beaver Creek State Park, which is in Ohio, Columbiana County, Ohio. And we were walking this trail up from the place called Hambleton's Mill. And there was a hill by us, and then the trail, and then this like a pond. And there was 4 of us walking, my wife and I, and Dave and Carrie Rupert, and we were walking. And Carrie was last, and she saw the rock coming. Had to be from the hill, and plop right in the pond. We just saw the aftermath. The rest of us, and it was thump, And so Dave and I ran as fast as we could. Like you had to go down the trail a little bit and then go up this hill because it was too steep. But we didn't see anything or hear anything. But we always say something or someone threw something from that hill. Could it have been a person? I mean, sure, it could have been a person. Mm-hmm. But why they would have just went up there just to
that's dangerous.
We were going to hoax us. I mean. You don't know because you didn't see what threw it, but it's like, why is something? And then when you hear about Bigfoot behavior, we'll throw rocks and.
Well, it's not just Bigfoot. It's typical ape monkey behavior. As we would do before we got technology, we would have done the same things. Mm-hmm. It's a territorial thing. It's like, you stay over there, you come on the other side of that rock, I'm going to hit you with another one. And it's amazing how surprisingly accurate. Everyone who's talked about had thrown rocks thrown at them that they suspect from a Bigfoot, how close the rock really comes to them. I mean, it's 2-3 feet away.
Exactly.
Which means to say that if you come closer to me, I'm going to hit you with something this big. So it's a bold statement from a very primitive animal. But the other thing you talked about earlier, when he was like behind a tree and he's doing this, that is also typical ape behavior. Gorillas do it. We do it. When you play hide and seek, remember when you were a kid, you want to know where the guy who's looking for you is coming from. So you have to look out and from your hiding space. Oh, he's coming my way. Then you cover up, right? Yep. That's typical human behavior. It's the face that I saw was a human face, no question. It was that close. I saw wrinkles in the skin. I saw a mustache and a beard. Wow. Multicolored coat with mostly black, but he had some. I think he was an elderly gentleman, Bigfoot, and I think he was around 12 to 13 feet tall. He was enormous.
That's big.
Because he saw us through a second-story window.
Wow.
In a house, in Ohio. 2 stories up. His whole face was in the window like this.
Oh, you said that was in Youngstown?
Yes. Well, actually, Boardman, which is a
Oh, I
suburb.
know where Boardman is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right. It's right below it.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, one of the big things that interests me about it, and was it Bill and Casey Kasulis, Lacey Kasulis? They're coming on, and I know they're doing some kind of study about trauma and these experiences. And I know PTSD is a lot with people, and with me, I think a lot of mine happened from some trauma. At 17, I had to go through testicular cancer and lost one of the nuggets, so to speak. And then a few years later, my dad died, and I started to have all these crazy experiences. And there's something to trauma and seeing into the realms that's why I do the show. That's why we're here, because I saw a bunch of weird stuff that I say I don't know a lot too, because I don't.
Yeah.
What I just know, I saw it, and that's enough for sure. And just talking about it, I can get chills thinking about certain experiences. Like I just got goosebumps all up my arm. One of my big ones was I've had a bunch, but it's been a little while. And then you want them to happen. You're like, well, where are you now? I guess whatever. I'm smoking too much weed, so I guess you're leaving me alone. But anyway, I was Silver Lake. I was inside listening to like some Watchword Bible on DVD, and I grew up Christian when my dad was a preacher, and I love Native American spirituality and Norse, so it's not like I'm not open to other things. Buddhism's pretty interesting, but these beings of light I saw completely sober, as if they were inside my home, came out the roof and flew straight into the heavens. And it was when I was playing the Bible on a TV. So I don't push it on anyone. I think there's truth in everything, but those beings seemed like they had some kind of something, some kind of hierarchy or something. They got a supervisor. They were glowing. So they were Jedi, had nirvana, had Christ consciousness. They were glowing like the sun, and they were humanoid shaped, and that's enough. That's why I don't try to, bad talk anything or rule it out. But there was
There are
definitely
several beings listed in the Bible as glowing like that. Noah, for one of them, they say when Noah was born, his skin shone like the sun, and his eyes were of that of gold or something to that effect. They were like they were glittery.
There's light
Yeah,
bodies.
it's very strange stuff.
I think they're us too. Maybe that's what we are on some level, like the Ron Howard cocoon aliens and these little cocoon bodies or whatever.
It's interesting because one of our friends, he was actually just telling me this last night. When he was growing up, he saw what looked like two light beings when he was a kid in his living room. So yeah, these are being seen also. So it's not like there's so many things that you could talk about. You can go on for hours about all the different, whether they be aliens, extraterrestrials, cryptids. You pick the term. But
did you hear? You heard about the Russian cosmonauts? Yes.
Didn't they see something outside of their capsule?
Many cosmonauts have reported seeing things, but the biggest one, all the same thing. It's like they call it like a golden, glowing like angel creature.
Yes. Okay.
Allegedly, they got pictures and film of it, but the largest flap was like they saw like five or seven of them flying in like a formation outside the Mir space station. They're like outside the orbit of Earth. So whatever they are, if they are legitimate things, if you can fly in outer space without a spaceship, that's pretty super powerful to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and truthfully, there's not a lot that's been done about like a research on like light beings. There's a little bit, but
very little, yeah.
So it's just another interesting subject out there. It's just phenomenal.
Are you familiar with Philip Coppens?
Who's that?
Philip Coppens.
I never heard of him. No.
He's a mainly UFO ancient alien researcher. He's since passed. His ex-wife, Kathleen McGowan's Coppens. She does a lot of that kind of research, light beings and like the Cathars and Catharsism and a bunch of stuff around the Carcassonne massacre, which is where one of the I think one of the vaults of the Templar Knights was destroyed. So she's been doing. I don't follow her research. She's a very wonderful lady, but she's been doing that for many years. If you have interest in that, she'd be one to contact on it. She's very well written. She's been on Ancient Aliens and other shows like that. So
I interviewed him before. I've interviewed him a long time ago. I know he passed away. We had Neil Donald Walsh Conversations with God on not too long ago, and he has a book, God Talk. I forget the publisher right now, but if you look up God Talk and the publisher, they have a book called Light Beings, and they sent it to me, and it's just all these like kind of like spiritual people like Bernie Segal and Neil Donald Walsh, and but they're light being encounter stories, and I was like, wow,
Oh,
I
okay.
guess good to know I'm not completely nuts, but there's a whole book about this crap.
Hey, like I said, they were written in the Bible, so those are stories of lit
There's
up
something
beings
to
who've
it.
been with us forever.
With shamans, like we had Don Oscar. Was it? I have trouble with his last name. Don Oscar. He's a shaman from Peru. But I told him my light being stories, and he said down there they gather and watch them in the sky do stuff and have like festivals. I don't know if they're tripping balls or what, maybe, but that don't make it any less lucrative to me. But he said they have video of them like just flying around and stuff in their skies. So there's something to it with shamanism and luminous beings of light. So there's something to it for sure. The quantum realms.
Well, the shaman down there even say they have witnessed, sky gods and sky beings coming in and out of portals in the rocks. Like they have that. I think it's either Sacsayhuaman or Ollantaytambo. They have that. It looks like a giant sized door carved into the rock, and there's like a niche in it that the shamans say you're supposed to put this thing in there, and then the portal opens, and you will turn into a wisp of smoke and go to wherever it sends you to. And they have thousands of stories in that area of beings coming and going through this same hole in the rock. But there's no hole; it's just a rock with a lintel and a door panel on it. That's it.
If you get into Kalani leporitis, and I always have trouble with last names here lately more than ever, but
yeah, I've
interviewed him. That's some wild stuff, and he seems pretty sincere.
His
you
work,
know?
yeah, he's even claimed that they actually even come inside of his house. They've come inside of his house too, and yeah, he interesting stuff. Again, wow, it adds another dimension. It's like, is there more than like one different type of Bigfoot? I mean, could some of them, like he claim, I know he claims he could communicate with them telepathically too, and other people have said that these creatures seem to be able to contact them and speak with them telepathically. Again,
Yeah.
it just adds another layer of strangeness on top of a very strange subject.
Yeah,
To be honest.
And just to say, just to say though, he thinks there's like different ones. Like there's the ancient ones that are like kind of a hairier race of people. There's some with cone heads, like not cone heads, but like a different type face or whatever. Yeah, and also if you look, there is weird Bible like in medieval stuff of hairy people. Like there is some weird paintings I've seen that are like, what
if you
the
look
hell?
at some of the early pictures of Merlin in the King Arthur legend, he's depicted as a hairy man, like a walking gorilla.
Yeah.
Maybe he was a Bigfoot.
You think?
I don't know. I'm not gonna rule it out. He's hairy in a picture.
Man of the woods.
Somebody put some hair on him for a reason. I don't know why. Maybe they're into that. Maybe they saw
too much of the hair of the dog that bit him. But he's been the early depictions of him show him as a hairy gorilla type dude, like almost like Curious George. Some of the really earliest one. It's like a wood cutting of him, and he's like standing like a teddy bear, and you can see the palms of his hand and the bottoms of his feet, and everything. Then where everything else that's not white is hair.
Yeah.
So Brian, what's going on with the black cats? Do you think those are more just physical only? Is there any weirdness with it? I know those increased a lot lately, right?
Yeah. Well, when we were in PA, I know, like I said, I know Stan we got all the time we were in PA. We only had two reports. One was up in Erie, and one was in Rochester, which is fairly close to our house. Though the one it was in Rochester was kind of interesting in one point that the person saw this black cat, and it was a big black cat, kind of, they said looked like a Black Panther even. That it happened right after a very bad thunderstorm. Okay, now you have a thunderstorm. You have a built up of electricity, static electricity, ions, things like that. So could some of the the black cat, could they be something that needs energy to manifest? Or I mean, like a lot of these, again, just don't know. They have been seen like in Greensburg, Westmoreland County, on the Chestnut Ridge. Down here already, we talked. I didn't specifically talk to the guy, but he kind of messaged that, hey, I saw one of these things by a landfill in Brooke County, and he said it looked like it looked like a, what you see a Black Panther would look like, and there was another one down here, I think in Hancock County. So just this was, a little bit like years ago, but now here you have a couple already down here. It depends. I think the longer we're down here, the more we can try to get the people to talk. I mean, it's happening, but it's happening very slowly. I think it's a very strange area, not too far from where we used to live. Ohio has a lot of Bigfoot reports.
Ohio, I think from the map I was telling you earlier from that TV show with the guy from MASH, as I recall, Ohio was one of the denser, visitation / Bigfoot sighting zones for both UFO and Bigfoot on this side of the planet. And then, of course, California would be the larger one on that side of the planet. But
I think Ohio is like 4th or 5th, believe it or not. Now, I think a lot of that also has to do with the amount of Bigfoot researchers in Ohio.
A and B, just the amount of just virgin forest that they have, just spanning that whole top side of the country, that they can hide better there. Over here there are more sightings on the East Coast than the West because we have not as dense a population of trees. And like I said, there are places where even though there are caverns that they can go almost all the way from Maine and almost all the way to Florida, there are places where they have to come above ground. They have no choice because their cavern ends. That's where you're going to find them on this side of the planet. If you want to find them in California, pack up and move to the middle of the forest and then make sure that you don't smell like a human being anymore.
So what do you want to do in the future? What's some of the future plans?
Retire.
Well, first you have to tire before you retire. So you got to get tired first, then retire.
Well, we would like to get some, and we don't have any like books out about our research. We've written, I call them book lists. Like we go to a lot of these conferences and things like that. So we put together. I just basically took sightings for a general area, and I just put a little bit of writing into it. But it's mainly reports more than writing. But that's on the table. Is to get some books out after all these years of research. I mean, we have people saying, "You guys got to put book." I'm like, yeah, it's like my wife will tell you, it's hard for me to sit still, let alone write a book. But that's in the plans, and we want to do more research here in West Virginia, which is very tough. It's a very tough state. They don't call it the Mountain State for anything. Even we live in a hollow, and there's, we're down at the bottom of it, big hills all over the place. So I just turned 59 a week ago, or actually, a week ago today. Actually, that's right. And so I have to. We're getting limited on time to do a lot of this stuff. But get some books out, get as much research down here, and then retire.
So let me ask you another, just a speculative question. So let's say tomorrow someone brings Bigfoot in for scientific research, alive and well, and what have you, and we answer that aspect. Is there another crypto that you would want to research next? Once we find Bigfoot, once we find so and so, what's the crypto that's your next big interest after finding out what Bigfoot is?
Well, it would probably be even like more. I don't call them Mothman. We call them winged entities, basically. And I do have some drawings of those if you guys want to see a couple of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those creep me out, but I like it. We have Andy Colvin, Mothman photographer, coming on soon, and Bill and JC. They did the Mothman Silver Bridge book not long ago.
I've never met them. I've conversed with them. We were on a radio show together, and I do want to meet them and get their new book, the Bridging the Tragedy, I think it's called.
Yeah. They're doing that trauma study too with a lot of people that has something to do with the trauma and PTSD and stuff.
So here's one I'm going to show you. This one was called the Chicora Gargoyle. This was in Butler County, Pennsylvania, March 2011. reported to Dan Hagman. If you can see this here, I want to try to see if I can.
I can
Wow.
see it.
You see that?
Almost like a,
Maybe I go further
like,
back.
yeah. It's almost like a gray alien with wings, but that's kind of like a
Yeah,
beak
and
too.
this was in 2011, and the interesting thing is, I'm going to show you this one here. We talked to this person. This was in June '93 in Allentown. Okay, it's almost the identical.
Similar.
It's
Yeah.
almost identical to what. If you see the bent back legs, now this seems to be a common theme. This particular creature, they were coming home from uh, a drive-in, and it was at night, and they're driving down this road, and this creature was on the left side of the road, and it moved to the right side of the road, and they said it was walking almost like a chicken. Okay, it had that. You know how chickens walk, kind of like, you know. And there was another report, I think, down in Mexico of a night watchman seeing one of these creatures too, and they said he walked chicken-like. So it seems like some of these creatures, they're bent, their legs are bent back. Here's another one here. This one's from Allegheny County, close to Pittsburgh.
Oh wow.
More humanoid-like, and it did have kind of like, I don't want to say spots, but the feathers seem to be, or feathers or whatever it was on it, seemed to be darker. You see the patches. And
Was
that
it in a
nook
tree?
of a tree. That was in a nook of a tree.
Okay.
The dog started to bark, and the guy comes out and looks and sees this thing sitting in that nook of that tree, because you even see it in the drawing. So he runs in to get his pistol, and he runs back out, and it's gone. And he said the dog was really upset. It was looking, it was bark. It was like it was barking. So it was kind of like it saw us, and he saw it, and he was scared. We actually were able to get there like a week after, because by the time we got the report, it was midweek, and we had to work. So we got out there that next Saturday. Of course, we didn't find anything, but I found his sighting very compelling.
Those things creep me out. Then you start thinking about the missing 411 stuff, and is it Bigfoot? Is it an alien taking pee? Is it a flying humanoid? Like there's some weird cases where it seemed like somebody was picked up and dropped and broken bones. Like there's weird cases with that missing 411 stuff that's just creepy as hell. Finding their gun in another location and just crazy. Like you don't know what it is. But what do you ever think? What do you think about some of that stuff? Do you have an opinion on it, or you think about what may be doing it?
It's almost like some of these people, they're walking into something, they're just disappearing. So are they going into a portal, or are they being picked up by extraterrestrials? I mean, some people say, oh, maybe Bigfoot's involved. I don't know about the Bigfoot thing, but a lot of these, these people seem to vanish, and like some of these kids are literally just
Seasoned hunters.
Yeah, and then they go around the corner and they're gone. Is something picking them up? Are they walking through something? I don't even know if
Crazy.
I don't know if David has even ever really kind of said his formal opinion. Now, again, there could be multiple things involved in that too. I mean, again, maybe it's another area of gray. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a lot of these different things.
I know a long time ago I interviewed him in written form, and I've had him on the show. It's been a while, but I put a question like, "Did Bigfoot doing it?" And he wouldn't let me ask it, and said that they would, these people are mourning, so you can't really bring up Bigfoot. And I get that, but he definitely seems like he's getting more paranormal with stuff. The UFO connection, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was a good DVD. Yeah.
Yeah. And what really creeped me out, there was a story of the guy that got abducted, and then they put him back because he had like a hysterectomy or something weird. And I had my experiences and had the testicular cancer thing. They throw me back, and if I wouldn't have had that, would they have taken me to some alien slave breeding planet forever or something? Or whatever the hell they do with you. It's like they threw that guy back. Did they say, "Oh, there's Jeffrey. Well, throw him back like a dirty fish, a dirty ugly fish"? But I remember my cases, a lot of the UFO stuff, they've been over me with witnesses, And I don't think I've been taken, but it's always like in the back of your head. Like, did they do it? And I just don't remember a damn thing. Like, I don't rule it out either, but I don't try to get too kooky with it. But I know I've seen enough that something's going on. I don't know. I don't know if they're taking me. It might be astral. I don't know, but I just know something's going on. And then we've had Robert Salas on. Was he in the Air Force and wrote the whole book about UFOs shutting down silos? And I mean, that's crazy stuff that's just in your face. And now every time I walk past the TV, my mom playing her NBC or whatever, UFOs, and year 17 of experiences in the show and my own experiences. Now everyone's going kooky over it. It's definitely crazy. And then the Peru thing, that was really weird. I don't know exactly what it was. I'm not going to say it was aliens, but that was strange. And then you had the Miami Mall thing. That seemed kind of like maybe it was crap, but weird with all the police there. And then
that was a strange
thing, the Las Vegas thing. Like, there are these
Yeah.
weird little alien cases popping up. And I know we had Augie Nost on. He says they're about to do a fake alien Project Bluebeam invasion or something.
Yeah.
Not going to rule that out either. That's the big thing with UFOs. Could it be China and some of these things? They're about to drop a nuke on us. So it's an important subject for sure. But one of my favorite documentaries is that Dan Aykroyd one with UFOs Unplugged. Did you ever see that? It's free. Yeah, I love that one. That's a good one. I like to find good ones.
Well, he's been a conspiracy nut for years. I mean, even when he was on, the early, not ready for primetime players in the early years of Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. So he's been a conspiracy nut since, we were kids.
That I always heard if you ever meet Dan Aykroyd, say something about MUFON, Mutual UFO Network. He'll say, doing the government's work for 40 years or something like that. He always says that, apparently.
Yeah, I remember him from the Tommy Boy. He had that same radio voice we talked about, his fake Zelensky auto parts. Zelensky auto parts. We make auto parts for the human or whatever, for the working man, because I'd never forget the whole thing. But yeah, he's good. He's a good pitch man.
Yep.
One time, a guy gave him a Church of Mabus probes happen alien sticker of an alien doing like this, a crystal skull vodka signing thing. Yeah. That's the closest we've got. We tried though to get him on. It's not easy, but yeah, I love that documentary. It's one of my favorites for sure. But does the UFO thing come up a lot in your cases? Is that something that sometimes, or is the UFOs ever involved?
They're not involved in the Bigfoot cases, but we do get UFO cases. Now we do get one of the things we've begun to study on, like I said, about 4 years, is the light anomalies, the light spheres. A lot of people, we got involved in that because a lot of Bigfoot researchers were out there saying, "Hey, I'm in an area of Bigfoot. We're going to, we're staying out here surveying for a big Bigfoot, and we're seeing these lights. We're seeing white lights, yellow lights, red lights going through the sky. And what are they? They're almost like balls. We call them light spheres, what we call them. Some people call them orbs. But seemingly more and more Bigfoot researchers are coming out and saying, I wasn't out there to see light spheres or balls or UFOs or whatever your term, and we're seeing them. Are they part of the Bigfoot phenomena, or are they just another phenomena observing the Bigfoot phenomena? Who knows? But we know that they have been seen, and by hikers, campers, that they're just out there enjoying nature. They're not out there looking for Bigfoot, and they see light spheres going through the woods up above them. I mean, is it an energy? Is it a sentient life form, an energy, a probe?
Could also be a side effect of natural phenomena. There are some natural phenomena that create balls of light like that. And I wouldn't say that what they saw was ball lightning, but there are some geophysical changes in the earth. When plates rubbed against each other, they create balls of light somehow. And then there is ball lightning. And I've been lucky enough to see both kinds. There's two kinds of actual ball lightning. There's ball lightning that forms into a ball and then just flies out and hits the ground, which I saw. Then I saw a lightning bolt hit a tree, and then it ricocheted off the tree as a ball, and it hit my car in the windshield. And I was like, ah! I mean, it scared the hell out of me.
That would have been something to see.
Yeah, it didn't shut the car down, thank God. All the energy went into the tree, but it was enough to scare the living I mean, it was like torrential, like hurricane almost rainfall. And I was very near my home, and there was a fire station directly next to me and a church in front of me. So if I died or got injured, I was okay either way.
Yeah, yeah. Like there are certain parts on the earth that they have spook lights, they have the Brown Mountain lights, they have the Naga lights, they have the Hesdalen phenomena. I mean, there's a lot of areas which they say could be quartz crystals, and they have squeezed together. It's called the piezoelectric effect.
Piezoelectrical effects, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there are certain things like that. And these other things though, they occur randomly in different parts of the planet, and not necessarily in the same area. You know, some of the things we're doing is trying to track uh, space weather, like from things from the sun, like geomagnetic storms, things like that,
Yeah.
to try to see if that in combination with some of the frequencies we use, can we make these appear, or if they are, say, if they are sentient, will they appear? So I mean, it's just, you don't know. I mean, there's just so many cool things out there. It's like I always say, so many cool things, so little time now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brian, did you say that you saw that Chris Bledsoe episode of Beyond Skinwalker Ranch? Did you see that one where
Oh
he
yeah,
summons the
that was
UFO?
very good, very good.
I don't know if you've looked at that book, UFO of God. I got it, but I haven't finished it. But a lot of people are claiming they're reading it and having similar things happen. So if you ever really want to
Oh yeah,
experiment,
that is the one by Chris Bledsoe,
yeah,
right?
it's called
I've got to
UFO
get
of
it. I've
God.
got to get
It's
it.
called UFO of God.
Yeah.
But what's so weird is it's in the Christian section, which I don't have a problem with that, but it has 5 stars. It's just a weird book that you're surprised is in the Christian section, doing very
Okay.
well. And read the reviews. People are like, "Now I'm doing it." And I've had similar stuff happen before I even knew Chris Bledsoe was. But the creepy thing is Colonel John Alexander blurb on the back, like you'll be like one of us, like some weird stuff. Like there's some creepy stuff to it that I don't understand. And I start
Okay.
thinking about John Carpenter movies, like we're all going outside to interact, and then an H.P. Lovecraft, the crafty monster comes and gets us from the heavens or something weird. But it's definitely interesting. I would be curious if you do read it. If anything happens, let me know for sure.
Okay.
I need to
I
get
will
back
check it
on
out
it.
then, definitely.
I've just been reading comic books lately, so I need to get back into it.
No, I read some comics too.
Yeah.
So
There's some I'm keeping up with now, and I don't want to get into it too long, but it's Robert Kirkman, the Walking Dead dude that made, all the Walking Dead comics. He's doing a whole, it's called the ENERGON universe. And you can find it under Robert Kirkman. Basically, he's combining Hasbro, G.I. Joe, and Transformers in this thing called Void Rivals in an entire universe. And they just put out a Cobra Commander comic that's weird and kind of Lovecraftian about him. And he goes underground, and he's with these serpent people that live in like Cobra land, like Shangri-La kind of thing. And he does some kind of terrorist thing, and they punish him because he gets his face blown up and has to wear a helmet. But then he goes above ground, and they agree to it. But it's like these 10-foot tall, crazy serpent people. And that's like where he's from. Like, it's just crazy as hell. Like, that's the only one I can afford to keep up with right now, but I'm doing it for sure. It's good. It's good. But so what are some of the things that you geek out on? I know we're talking about that some. We can get back into paranormal, but what about some of the sci-fi stuff, and how has that influenced all this?
well, I grew up like I said, in the 70s, and I used to watch all of the 50s and 60s black and white alien invasion type things. I mean, there's tons of them, right?
Yeah.
I was always interested too in the like in the 50s, they would have the you pick it. It's either giant ants or giant praying mantises. The deadly mantis, things like that. The giant spiders. It was always like really geeked out about that kind of stuff. And like we had said too before about Godzilla, I'm a big Godzilla geek, and anything with giant monsters in, I'm just I still drive my wife crazy. I'm like, oh, we got to see it. Kong versus Godzilla times Kong is coming out here in about
Yeah.
2 weeks. Got to see that.
We just saw the show on Apple, the whole Monarch thing.
Yeah,
That
we
was
watched that.
decent. I need to see -1.
You'll like it.
And
It's very good.
I'm waiting for it to get on some kind of streaming. It's got to at some point. I know at some point it's coming somewhere. But what about V the series? That was one that always
I
creeped
watched
me
that
out.
at 7. Yeah.
That
was
was a
good.
trip, man.
Yeah.
That's a weird one. I love
Yep.
that. I actually have like this Ken doll reptilian that's like it's not Ken really is, but it kind of looks
He
like
kind
that.
of
But his
looked like
face
him. You're
comes
right.
off.
You're right.
Yeah, his face comes off and he's a lizard. But those
Yep.
always creep
Yep.
me out. I can't even imagine that was on TV. And I grew up with Elvira on TV, and I mean it's just
Yeah.
weird to even think that. I remember Night of the Living Dead and Elvira
Yep.
on like regular channels on TV.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't
That's-
get into Elvira as much, but we had the same kind of things like late night scary theaters, and like I think Friday night was Kung Fu theater. There were two hokey Hong Kong Kung Fu movies, and then Saturday night was the two scary movies, and then Sunday night was Benny Hill in the DC area. So we had plenty of good entertainment back in the 70s and 80s.
We had Chiller Theater with Bill Cardell. That's what we watched.
Yeah, we had Captain 20, WDCA Channel 20 is an independent station. I think it's now a CW station, but in the 70s, 80s, it was an independent, and they had this guy on there he was Bozo the Clown, he was Captain 20, he had all these different online personalities for the station, and they did all the cartoons in the afternoon, like Spider-Man, Speed Racer, Kimba the White Lion, Ultraman, which is live action, all the great, Japanese stuff. Yep. And then later on in the 80s, they had Thundercats, they had Silverhawks, they had the same station did what was like the one with the Iskandar, Star Blazers. They had Star Blazers.
I don't
in
remember
the 80s.
Star Blazers.
Oh my God, it's epic! It's like a 200 episode long half-hour cartoon of the Earth has been destroyed by these Gamelon aliens, and the surface is radiated, so all the humans live underground, and they have all this new technology. And so what do? Is they go underneath the bottom of the battleship Yamato and rebuild it into a spaceship with the whole bottom of the ship is like a honking giant space gun, which is powered by this honking space wave machine that can send them 100 light years at a time through space. But when they open up the gun, like one beam destroys any ship that's anywhere near it. It's a really cool cartoon. You have to check it out. Star Blazers, The Battle for Iskandar, or something like that is the first one. Yeah, check it out. You'll love it.
It sounds like something I'd probably like, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
There's this Japanese horror movie that me and Christina watched, and they just released it on YouTube. I put the link in the private chat and the regular chat over there if you want to click it, but they just remastered it on YouTube. It's called Sweet Home, and it's free on YouTube. And supposedly somehow Resident Evil got inspired from it. It's like the whole story's about these Japanese people going into a mansion, but I didn't know exactly what I was watching. But it was really great. It was like, I would say, like a Japanese Evil Dead. It was freaking crazy.
Okay.
It'll surprise you. Like, you'll be like, what the F is this? But it's good. But there's some creepy stuff in it. But it really surprised me. It's from the 80s. But I just put it in there, and you can find it in YouTube. They remastered it and released it on this channel for free.
Okay.
It's really great. It's on archive.org too. But
just real quick before we move on to something else, I found a really nice little sleeper movie. It's not UFO related. It's not Bigfoot. But the guy that stars in it looks a lot like the guy who plays Wong in the Doctor Strange movies.
Okay.
This big chubby Korean guy. I started watching the movie and I thought, oh, this is going to suck. And it's a Korean-based production, but it's pretty well done. It's half Korean, half English, so you have to read a good bit of the movie in captioning. But it was a really, really good story about a Korean child who was abandoned at birth, adopted into America, grew up in America, in Ohio, and then his friend from Korea comes to visit him, tells him about a world championship hand wrestling tournament in Korea, brings him to Korea to train for it. And I won't tell you anything more from that, but you should look at it. It's kind of like what was Rambo's movie with the hand wrestling, arm wrestling. I forget the name.
Over the top, or
Over the top. Yeah, it's kind of like they even mention it in this Korean movie, but it's much better than the Stallone version.
Look up
called Champion. Check it out. It's a little Korean movie. It was, I think, 2018.
Okay.
Champion. Look up. I think it was Korean. It's called Save the Green Planet. The guy that did that weird Frankenstein movie with Emma Stone. It's kind of a perverted type movie, but he's remaking that Save the Green Planet, and it's really weird about this guy that hunts down aliens, and interrogates him and tries to kill him, but it's nuts. They're remaking it. Also, I'm on an Asian kick lately with movies, but that Shogun on Hulu is actually pretty good. It was surprising.
Oh yeah, my girlfriend does not want to watch that. I was curious. I saw the original and I was like, oh, I hope this is pretty good. And then I started watching, like, wait, they're talking Japanese. Yeah,
it's really good. It's really good. It's
No,
doing
yeah,
well.
no,
It's
no
doing
fake
well and really
Japanese
good.
accents with American actors this time.
There are a
Well,
few.
that's
There
like
are a few
Godzilla
torture
minus
scenes.
one.
Yeah.
Godzilla minus one. It was in Japanese, so you had to read it, and
Yeah,
that was the only movie that I ever went by myself. My wife didn't want to go because she didn't want to read. So
yeah,
I
it's
just
a
had
pain in the
weird.
butt to read them.
It's a weird feeling to sit in a movie theater by yourself, and that was the first time ever, and that was just last year.
Yeah. Sometimes subtitles can be hard when you're eating and stuff. So I'm trying to eat. I gotta read this. But yeah, sometimes they can just flow though, and it works out. But yeah, that Shogun is really good. There are some death scenes in it. They're kind of harsh, but other than that, I mean, it's still good. But I like it. It's doing
I
well.
mean, think about the time frame. We're talking the 1680s, 1690, feudal Japan. They barely have gunpowder. And then they encounter the Portuguese, then the Spanish, then the English. And what do they suspect? They thought we were barbarians.
I was surprised there were so many. I was so surprised there were so many Christians there in it. Like, I know there's that movie Silence by Martin Scorsese about the Christian missionaries who go there, but I was like, what do all these Christians do? I guess I don't know that much about the history. That's why I like it. At least I'm learning and I'm watching something, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of Christian influence in it, which surprised me that they were there, and the Japanese were like letting them be there at all.
But they were on a crusade. They were trying to get more recruits for the church.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how rich that church is. If they hadn't done that, they might not be the richest religious entity on the planet.
Yeah, for sure. I hear they're doing a Killer Clowns from Outer Space series.
Really?
Are they?
Awesome.
Finally doing a TV series.
I liked the movie. I did like the
Me
movie.
too.
I was so upset they never made a second one. That first one was so hokey and so funny.
They're doing a TV series.
Cool.
One of the guys that were on the ice cream truck, not to be a downer, actually took his life not too long ago, unfortunately. But I know they're doing a series, and there's a game coming out that looks really good. That's kind of like online, and you're in the carnival and the clowns against humans, and it looks pretty good.
Video game or board game?
Yeah, video game. You're doing a Killer Clowns video game. It's similar like the Friday the 13th one in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That kind of format where you're online and they're trying to get you or whatever, turn you into cotton candy. It looks good, so I'll check it out. But so I don't know, with paranormal, it's just the world we live in. It's like Christina was just at the medicinal weed place, and they were talking about Mothman in there. It's like this stuff's hit a level. It's kind of like goth at Target now, a section. It's like there's a point where it gets getting so much you're like, oh, I've been doing this 17 years, so you do kind of get burned out on it, and then you got to find ways to refuel. That's why I like to hear cases like you're sharing. That helps. I like to hear cases and things like that. That helps.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the reason. The first organization, Q, which we still have, we wanted to be able to, maybe one day we're going to do some paranormal research, then we'll do UFOs, then we'll do cryptids. So you don't, there's a lot of groups out there, a lot of just Bigfoot groups. They want to do Bigfoot. And we never wanted to be just a Bigfoot group. And when we have, we put CCS out there, our logo has like Bigfoot and Mothman and a bunch of other things on it. And we always wanted to move freely between different things and just research and learn about it, see what there's what could be the same and things like that. But just to do one single thing, you would get burnt out. You need, they always say variety is the spice of life, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the bulk of paranormal researchers, they generally stick to one subject.
Exactly.
I'm interested in cryptids. I know I've stopped research on one, so I've seen him. But the only guy that I know that does everything is we just talked about him earlier, Nick Redfern. He's into everything: ghosts, goblins, shamanism, What's the Slender Man thing? He's into the Slender Man story. We interviewed him about that. We had him on the show like 6 years in a row, like every year at Halloween, and every year he had a different topic. One year was UFOs, the next year was a cryptid thing, and so it's like, dude, do you ever stop? I mean, he does it all, and he does not stop.
Got a ton of books out there too. I don't know how
a ton of books. If you ever talk to him, interview him, he's always got 2 or 3 books going at the same time that he's writing for the next.
He's the Terminator. He's the Terminator.
He's the Terminator. He's unbelievable.
He's a machine. The Final Events is a creepy one of his, where they some kind of study where they're the government and Armageddon. That got kind of weird and stuff like that. I did try to get him on recently, but he's having internet trouble and some kind of internet stuff going on bad, so he hadn't been doing interviews. So that was the last time. That was last Halloween. But so what about? I mean, you said Bogey Creek and the Leonard Nimoy. Those are great. And we grew up on those. And I've heard a lot of Bigfoot people say the Bogey Creek. We just rewatched that Exist. It was pretty twisted.
Yeah, I think the problem was it was recently like someone. Is it not Rhino? Maybe it's Rhino Records, the guys that do all the retro movies and TV shows. I think that they had bought a warehouse and they came across it. That's how it came back to being available. Because at some point it was no longer on print and you couldn't rent it, couldn't buy it, couldn't
remaster it.
YouTube didn't have it, so.
Yeah, they remastered it.
It scared me as a kid, I mean, it was just, wow, real monster, you know what I mean?
I got a good, The Dark Divide. That's a good movie that I saw about Bigfoot. It's pretty good. David Cross is in it. And it's actually kind of like a independent film. It's based on this dude that it's a true story. Let me see. The Dark Divide is based on the true story of renowned butterfly expert Dr. Robert Pyle. His perilous 1995 journey across one of America's largest undeveloped wildlands. It's basically a bug dude that has a Bigfoot situation. It's a true story called The Dark Divide.
Oh, I gotta watch that. Then. I gotta see.
It's good. It's good. I think it's on Tubi.
Okay.
I think so. But yeah, what are some of the other movies that have influenced you? There been documentaries, any that you can think of?
Well, the main one for me was it really catapulted me was the Mysterious Monsters. I think it was in '76, and I just remember as a kid, maybe 10, 11, that the woman was on her couch and there was a window and the arm comes through the window and they have this.
Was Peter Graves the narrator for that? Okay.
Yes.
So when in the '70s it was in the movie theaters listed as Man, Myth, and Monsters.
Yeah.
And then when it went to video, they changed the name to Mysterious Monsters, and it's had a couple other titles. But and it's available on Amazon, by the way, if you want it. So I saw that.
That's the one that was the kickoff. I mean, I was hooked because I would read the UFO magazines. There was a plethora of UFO magazines in the '70s, and UFO Report, Official UFO, and they would have articles about Bigfoot with UFOs and articles about Bigfoot, and that piqued my interest. But once that came out, I was like, wow. I mean, just like, wow. You just like, hey, this is a real monster. It looked, as a younger kid, it's a monster.
It was a fairly well done production. They probably had a bigger budget than most documentaries would have had.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I had Peter Graves. I mean, come on, he didn't come cheap, guaranteed. One of the stories that I really, really liked, I don't know how much you know about it, but I'll just recant it real quick. There was a gentleman who was in the woods, and I'm not sure where. I think it's closer to your area, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, lower Ohio. But he's out hunting and camping, and he has his lever action 30 lever action rifle, a sleeping bag at a campsite. And he claims that a Bigfoot came into his campsite, and he was so scared that he tucked himself underneath as he was trying to sleep. He tucked himself under his sleeping bag with his rifle. And the next thing he says that he remembers that whatever it was grabbed the top of the sleeping bag and the top of his gun and dragged him. He doesn't know how far, but somewhere else where there was a Bigfoot camp and a fire where they had fire. And when the Bigfoot let the man go, he tried to shoot him, but the Bigfoot bent his rifle, so it would no longer work. So he just stayed there in his sleeping bag watching these Bigfoot do whatever they were doing. And when he noticed they weren't paying any attention to him, he jumped out of his sleeping bag and ran with his broken rifle as far back to his camp as he could. Did you ever hear about that story?
I did not hear that one. I heard the Albert Osman story in California in the 1900s, I think. Where
this one was in like
bag,
1850s or 1950s over here on the West Coast. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, not West Coast, East Coast.
East Coast. Yeah, that one I did not hear about now.
Yeah, that would scare the living, what out of me. But the fact that I don't know if the Bigfoot was wise enough to intentionally hurt the guy's weapon, but those Bigfoot are lucky that they bent his weapon, or he would have definitely shot him. He was that scared.
Is the Osman one the kidnap Bigfoot story where they take him to a cave and all that?
Yeah, where they go in a cave and he gives them chewing tobacco and they eat it and they're getting sick and he runs away. Yeah, that's.
Oh, I've heard that one. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There's always the creepy Kiwani story about the one that the rogue Bigfoot that the other Bigfoots make him drink antifreeze or some story like that. That apparently it was like hurting humans or something. They made it go to a cave, and who knows if it's true? I don't know, but I always remember a creepy story. I've also heard weird. The Joe Fex guy told some weird story about a Bigfoot and a horse that I won't get into, but that's all you need to know. That was weird, not too pleasant. But Bigfoot's just fascinating. I mean, like with Jay's, the one was watching kids, and was it just because they wanted to see the innocent ones?
No, I wasn't watching any kids. I was.
Oh, there was kids. Okay, yeah. Or did it want to eat them? So I mean, there's so many different ways.
Like I said, it was on the other side of a window. There was a window screen there, and of course, it could have come through that, no problem. But he would not have fit through the window. The creature was too large. But he was definitely. He stood on in the backyard. They had a little log cabin thing with a gabled roof, and two of the slats on both sides of it had been bowed in where he would be standing, and then the window in the room that we were all in playing, there were two support handprints where he leaned over to look in the window. Wow. and like big muddy handprints on either side of how big's a window? 4 foot wide. So at least a 4 foot wingspan. And when he noticed us, or he didn't notice us, he noticed me noticing him, noticing us. And when I was watching his face, he had a pleasant appearance. Like he was enjoying watching all of my younger nephews and cousins running around playing. When he saw me seeing him, his face went to immediate anger. He screamed at me, and I started screaming. Everyone in the room started screaming. We ran downstairs to the family room, which was directly below us, where that log cabin, you could see through the door. When we got down there, this thing jumped off of it into the sand pit. It had a sandbox next to it, jumped into the sand, and then 2 steps, he was gone. Wow. Literally 2 steps in a 3/4 acre lot. 2 steps, he was out of it. And that's the last we saw of him. And we did follow his footprints the next morning. And we lost him in the woods. When he found the creek, once he hit water, we could not find his prints again. Wow. It's simple tactics, but evasive tactics that only someone who knows they're being followed would do. To evade, if you were going through the woods hunting, you don't hide your tracks, do you? Not consciously. I know most hunters probably don't, but this thing hid its tracks on purpose. That indicates intelligence.
Intelligence, exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Problem solving, high reasoning ability.
No, one of our co-hosts, Wham, she was talking about how she thinks some of the Dogman stuff may be jinn, which is kind of interesting, spirits that you often hear of Middle East, or I guess like a genie type situation. I saw that movie 3,000 Years of Longing recently with Tilda Swinton and Elder Ibris. Did I say his name right? Probably not. Yeah, but he's in it. It's by Gregory Miller. That's not who I'm talking about. George Miller, the guy that did Mad Max and Witches of Eastwick, but it's a
George.
Genie story. It's pretty good. And but anyway, that some of these could be trickster phenomenon or jinn taking manifest into a form. And what's interesting, a lot of these Dogman stories on a lot of these documentaries, they are guarding graveyards, or someone will take something from there and then the thing will follow them home and they'll see it, and then they'll have to bring that thing back to get it to go away. So that could be I mean, I'm not saying it's jinn. I don't know, but that seems kind of jinnish. Like it's something they would do. But definitely
well,
cool.
the actual description of jinn in the Arabic stories is that they're made of smoke and fire.
Yeah.
So they're like an intangible thing.
Shapeshifters. They could
but again, you said they might be able to actually take another form. Who knows? But their true form is like smoke and fire, whatever that means.
You read a lot of the coyote trickster native lore. That stuff's pretty weird and vulgar. Just to think that there's like a real coyote dude maybe sitting around out there like a man. Those are pretty wild.
John Keel talked about like the ultra terrestrials. Like an ancient form of being on the earth, and it, maybe me and you are walking in the woods, you see a dog man, I see a Bigfoot, or maybe it can influence what you're seeing or take on the form that that you're maybe unconsciously thinking about. So maybe
we talked about a fictional creature like that on another show earlier this week. In Star Trek, there was the episode of the Man Trap with the salt eating creature. And the creature was, by its natural form, was hideous, but it sent out a certain pheromone that it was a female creature, so it sent out a pheromone that other male creatures would look at it and see their most desired beautiful woman. So Captain Kirk sees one creature, the younger ensign sees a completely different woman, and then the guy who's married to it sees her as the way he married her. Yes. So it's the same creature, 3 different views.
Yep.
You got yourself muted there.
Yeah, I was trying to look up that book by Bruce Hallenbach. There's a Small Town Monsters book, and Bruce has been on about it. The Kinderfeld blob, and then there's some kind of the Kinderfeld creature, the Kinderhook creature. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that.
It's called the Kinderhook creature, and supposedly there's some blob story where people see a blob, but someone else sees the Virgin Mary. And that's a Small Town Monsters book, the Kinderhook creature, if you're interested in that. I'm not even sure where that is, but I forget what state that's in. I don't remember. But it's pretty fascinating, though, that some of this phenomenon can appear to your belief system. Yeah. So that's pretty fascinating to think about, that something could be adjusting to what you think or believe and manifesting it that way. And there's definitely something to that trickster energy that taking different forms and things like that. I'm not saying all phenomenon is that. Some could be flesh and blood, some could be ghost Bigfoot, ghost cavemen, and some could be trickster energy impersonating it. So it seems like a lot of crap going on at one time. But for sure, I don't know, is there any other cases that have come up that you want to talk about, or anything that comes to mind? Or we'll get into movies again and other stuff. I'm good either way.
Well, I just right now it's like concentrating on the winged entities and still some Bigfoot things. Nothing ever like comes up, comes to mind now. Nothing that other than like the big 3 or 4 that we're doing. Yeah, probably not.
I've seen some Owlman stuff. The OWL man. That's pretty weird to think about an Owlman or the Goat Man.
You have Owlman. Even across history, you've had winged entity. Different cultures have different kind of winged entity deities, or so it makes you wonder. What are some of these things? Different races or interdimensional creatures, or
Well, there's some speculation that we were talking about this again on another show, that there are the reptilian race of aliens that we think are on this planet and have been interacting with us, not only politically, but I wouldn't say socially, but genetically at least. And the speculation is that they have 5 or 6 different genome types, but the upper echelon, the ones that are considered nobility, the ones who are in control, these reptilians have a set of wings like dragon wings. And if you look back in art, particularly old biblical art, there are 9 foot, 13 foot, really tall winged green lizard beings interacting with humans. A lot of times they're eating the humans, if you go to see some of those Hieronymus Bosch things, but but they're there. Those images are in there since early Christian times. And who comes up with a religion and then illustrates the book with pictures of winged lizard creatures eating humans? That doesn't come from a primitive imagination. That comes from, you saw that.
Or Saint George the Dragon Slayer, or Vlad the Impaler, the cool son of the dragon. I mean, there's King Arthur, the dragon.
Yeah.
There's reptilian energy for sure. So I don't rule it out. That's for sure. There's serpentine energy that runs across the earth. There's something to it for sure. The Naga, which is like, forget exactly.
People of the
India, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things,
You got the Dogu of ancient Japan and Korea from 14,000 BC that mirrors the exact same story as the Dogon in Western Africa.
Yep. The Garuda, the Garuda birdmen, or the some Andy has said something about some Mothman ties with the Garuda. There's the horned serpent and the Thunderbird stories. That's pretty fascinating. Supposedly those Thunderbirds, I guess, eat the horned serpents at war with them or something. There's weird stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a story of something about that, and it's on the flag of Mexico. There's the eagle and the snake thing. I don't remember the exact story, but I think it parallels what you're talking about there, Jeffrey. The story is, I think, somewhat supernatural, where the eagle comes down and kills the sun god. It's shaped like a snake. It's something like that.
There's a good one, Native Bigfoot on Tubi, that's pretty good. That's a documentary, Kathy Moskowitz Strain, and that book, God's Cannibalism Monster. That was good. That was like, that's good. But yeah, there's some good ones on there. But so what have you been up to as far as movies and TV series and things? What have you been getting into? Is it mostly like paranormal, or do you do all kinds of different stuff?
We do all kinds of different stuff. We're trying to finish up the Expedition X series now with Josh Gates.
Okay.
I always like Josh Gates' stuff. I'm trying to think what else we just go from, we'll pick a series and then watch it, or sometimes binge watch it. We just like I like all kind monsters, sci-fi, action, adventure, just whatever like I haven't seen, we try to watch. We watched a movie called The Breach. Did you ever see that one?
That's the kind of I've been meaning to. I know what you're talking about. I know what it's on Amazon. It's like I've been thinking about it. I'm finally gonna probably do it now.
It's got a cool little story to it. It does, yeah. The guy's building almost like his own CERN little thing up in the attic, and he pushes people in there, and they become like these zombies, and there's a little more to it, but it was a pretty cool movie, The Breach.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, you'd probably like that one.
We're watching The Artful Dodger, which is like kind of like an Oliver Twist weird spin-off thing in the future with David Thewlis. I don't know if he's in it. He's Fagin. He's a creepy thief. It's pretty good. It's kind of like
I like David Thewlis. He's nice. He's a good.
Yeah, he's the best part of it for sure. But
he was the guy in the Dragon movie with Sean Connery. He was the king.
Dragonheart or something.
Yes, Dragonheart. Thank you. That's the one.
And I don't know. There's we saw Dune, the old one, recently. That's always fun to watch. The old one, David Lynch.
Second part's out. Yeah, coming out.
I want to see it. Yeah, I want to see the second one part. But
I'm glad he decided not to make a third part. He's concluding it. Originally, he was going to make a 3-part Dune, and I said, the book requires a minimum 6 seasons, 23 episodes each to do just the first book. There's so much plot in it. You can't do it in a movie.
I like the David Lynch one. It's fun. It's not perfect, but what is, right? But
the David Lynch one, in my opinion, is the best one, because if you know the history of the book, basically, if you've read the book, you have, and it's not unusual. The Ethiopians really kicked the Italians' ass in World War II, which is why Hitler had to send Rommel down there. But very rarely do primitives beat people with technology. And he had primitives doing kung fu in the book on the deserts, and then like the worms also are eating, large amounts of sardaukar and what have you. But he was right. You were going to have Kung Fu the movie on the, a Mexico sand dune, It would look horrible. So thank God he gave them a weapon that was a trumping card so they could overcome the more powerful technology of the emperor. Otherwise, you don't have a movie. That's one time where Hollywood made a movie better. The second time they made a movie better from the book is Jaws. If you ever read Jaws, in the end of Jaws, the shark swims into the cabin to eat the sheriff, and the sheriff wiggles out the other way, and the shark gets stuck.
And it drowns.
And
right?
the ship sinks,
Yeah.
and the shark drowns to death.
Yeah.
You can't have that for a Hollywood movie. So
Yeah.
what do? They shove an oxygen tank in his throat. He gets away, and then the sheriff hits him in the face with a bullet, and he explodes. Fantastic ending for a movie.
Ending. That
It's a fantastic movie ending.
Now, they were talking about redoing Jaws too, so I don't know if it ever happened to that.
I don't think they should. The reason why Jaws works so well, and it's a horror movie. Most people don't realize it's a horror movie, 100%. It's not like a supernatural being like Jason or Michael Myers, but it's a pretty supernatural being. If you are in the water, you can't compete with it. And just the not seeing the fake shark until the very end is what sold the horror. If you'd have seen that fakey styrofoam shark the whole movie, you'd be like, oh, this is so gaudy looking.
I actually liked the second one too, and a lot of people didn't like it.
Second one's pretty good.
After that, no. They were just
there's the third one was in 3D with, was it Dennis Quaid, I believe, and the mom. And then the fourth one I think was just the mom. And there was one of the David Carradine, not David Carradine, the guy who played Sark, David Warner, I believe, was in it.
I saw the first Dune. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I hear the second one's better. So
they did go. He did change the book timelines around a little bit. There's a few gender swaps. Dr. Kynes is now female rather than a male. So I don't know how she can be the father of Chani. But in the book, Dr. Liet Kynes he's with the Fremen, but he's also with the Emperor, but he sides with the Fremen and not the Harkonnens, the Atreides. But they changed him into, and I like this actress. She's pretty mean, but they did the death scene correct this time. Mm-hmm. In the first movie, they just open up Dr. Kynes' vest and send him out into the desert. This one, she lures the Sardaukar in and then hits the drum sand to bring in the sandworm, and they all die. That was a cool scene. That's actually in the book.
There's supposedly a movie that helped inspire Star Wars called The Hidden Fortress. I haven't seen it, but 1960. I want to see that. I know it's on Max, so hopefully at some point I'll check that out. And there's some old, what's the one old black and white silent movie with the smiling dude? I forget the name, but it's inspired the Joker somehow. The guy that the old. What was that movie called? The Man Laugh or something? Some silent movie with the dude smiling all the time. Hello, I can't remember the name, but The Man Who Laughs. It's an old silent horror movie from 1928 where supposedly that's where Joker, the whole Joker thing came from. So I like to find neat stuff like that. I love silent movies and the Universal Monsters, and they're doing. Yeah, awesome. Image Comics is doing comics now of the Universal Monsters. They just did a Dracula. There's a creature from. Okay. Yeah, there's 4 issues to that one. There's a creature from the Black Lagoon. Return a Creature from the Black Lagoon that's about to start. I think there's 4. There's a Frankenstein, but they're well done and the art's beautiful. I have the Dracula ones. It's Bela Lugosi style and James Tinian. That's really good. So I like those a lot. And looking forward. There's supposed to be another Nosferatu with that Doug Jones, the guy that did Abe Sapien and like the lizard and Shape of Water dude, the lizard man. He's supposed to be doing
tall alien in Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, he's supposed to be doing a Nosferatu. But anyway, we got about 5 minutes, and Brian, it's been really great. But I want to get some of your links in and stuff, or any closing statements. But it's been great having you on. We really enjoyed it. What are some of your links for everybody?
Well, I think probably we're mainly on Facebook, so you could catch us on Center for Cryptozoological Studies, and also Center for Unexplained Events, or you can just, tag me, Brian Seech. I'm on Facebook. And if you have any sightings or anything, no matter where they are, especially Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia, though, we would get back to you. So we're just looking forward to trying to get even more reports from other states too, just to see what kind of similarities, whether they be, especially more even like the stranger ones, like the winged cryptids or the dog man, because there's so much Bigfoot stuff out there. It's like, we always say, hey, we're going kind of getting Bigfoot burnout because yeah, it's just, I'd rather do some of the weird ones that people haven't even heard of. So, but those are the
Need
three
more
ways.
goat man. More goat man.
Oh no,
Yeah,
no, no!
Goat man, sheep squatch.
Everybody's heard about all those. You got to go after Mokele and Bembe.
Sheep
Oh,
squatch.
that, you
That's
know what? That is is always is Mokele Mbembe. I guess that's how you say it, right?
Mokele and
Dinosaurs.
Bembe, yes.
Yeah,
bless you.
yeah, that is just so cool. I mean, as a kid growing up loving the dinosaur movies, I'm like, wow, could there be a sauropod in the Congo? That is so.
How cool would that be if they found, whether it's a Stegosaurus, a Brontosaurus, something
Yes.
of that line would be, Triceratops even, would be so cool.
Oh my God, yeah, that's just like, that would be the inner kid that I still have. Believe me, I'm still a big kid at heart. That would just love that. I mean, just wow.
What
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of those.
That would be what I would love to find out. And it's so hard because it's so deep where it is, and it's
Oh yeah.
it's the same problem we have with the Bigfoot find. How do you find Bigfoot? Well, you have to have a lot of money. You got to smell like poop and live in the woods for a year, and eventually he's going to find you. You don't have to look for him; he'll find you.
There's been some weird pterodactyl reservation
Yeah.
stories. I know J.C. Johnson, he passed. That sucked.
Yeah.
But I remember, I did a written interview on Skinwalkers with him once, and he told some, the creepy thing, what you do to become one. It's really creepy, but that was a sad loss. But some of the pterodactyl ones, those are crazy. Like I've
Yeah, we
heard
have
local
Thunderbird
reservations.
reports here. That's what we call.
Yeah, that's
I think
similar.
it's the same
Right?
creature. Have you seen the pictures, the tintypes or daguerreotypes of Civil War guys that have a pterodactyl on the ground?
I was another one that growing up in the 70s, I swear I saw that picture, the lost picture that no one can find of the pterodactyl and the I think there were cowboys and it was like taped to, or hammered to
I've
a bone.
seen it, but I didn't know if that was legit.
Well, I have a degree in photography. I'd have to look at the original, either negative or tintype or daguerreotype to make a determination. But there's a couple of them. They're on the internet. You can still. They're very neat looking.
I'm sure they're still there.
One Civil War officers. I think they're Southern Confederate officers.
Yeah,
and then,
I remember that one.
Then there's one with the cowboys that you're talking about, and there's one or two others. Yeah.
Make sure they're still there because the Mandela effect timeline might have changed. So they might not be there.
Yeah.
The butterfly effect timeline catches up to us.
But we appreciate it, Brian. Great show. Thanks so much. And thanks to Mark Eddy for getting you on. But we really enjoyed it. Thank you
Mark,
so much.
Yeah, if he hears that. I enjoyed it, guys. Thanks a lot. I could talk this stuff
thanks,
all
Brian.
night, so I appreciate it.
Too.
Just put up the link so I can share it. If you guys have a link to this show, put it up so I can
I'll
share
send it to you. I'll send it to you. Oh, Mark used to co-host with me some back in a million years ago.
Oh, did he? Okay, I didn't know that.
A long time ago, yeah. But we appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. You're listening to United Public Radio, 107.7 FM, New Orleans. Next week is Gordon Briggs. He's a guy that's always doing cosplay on my Facebook and comics and movies. And he's like the Lon Chaney of our age. He's going to come on. We'll talk about all that stuff. But everybody have a good week. And Dennis Carroll's the next Friday, a paranormal researcher. Everybody have a good weekend. Thanks for listening. Take care, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.